Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some entitled parent stories, and our first story of the day is by Maurice10304, entitled Mother and Entitled Kid Are Trying to Steal My First Class Seat. So this morning I was traveling with the train to work. Due to COVID, not many people are traveling via train, so the train company has shorter trains than usual. Not a problem in my opinion, but this morning the train was extra short due to some material issue. So I'm sitting in my first class seat next to the window. Then entitled mother walks in with entitled kid. "Excuse me, young man." Me looks at entitled mother. "I see you're sitting at the window." Yes. Entitled kid screams out of nowhere, "Mom, I want to look out of the window." Other people in the train are now looking at us three. "My boy wants to have this seat." Has your kid a disability or a handicap? I ask this because I want to give up my seat if entitled kid really has a disability or handicap, which might not be visible. Entitled mother freaks out. "How rude!" She starts screaming for the train employees. I'm asking because if he has one, I'm willing to give up my seat. Train employee appears. The train employee says, "What seems to be the problem?" "This young man was calling my son handicapped. I want him kicked off this train." I was asking because... The train employee says, "Young man, can I have your ID and ticket please?" I say, sure. I stand up to get my ticket, which is in the luggage compartment. Entitled kid just starts sitting in my spot and starts looking outside of the window. I give my ticket and ID to the train employee. The train employee says, "This seems to be fine, sir. Now, what's the problem?" I was asking because if her kid had a handicap or disability, I want to give him my seat. The train employee says that is indeed the right thing to do. Entitled mother interrupts the train employee. "He didn't want to give up his seat and was screaming to my little boy. He's an R-word." I didn't. The train employee says, "Ma'am, can I see your tickets and ID please?" Entitled mother hands over the tickets. "Ma'am, this is a second class ticket. You need to sit in second class." "We can't, there are a lot of people there." "Ma'am, you need to leave now and give this man his seat back." Entitled mother grabs entitled kid and walks off. Entitled kid screams, "No, I wanted the window seat." The train employee says, "Sorry for the inconvenience, sir," and walks off. After 5 minutes, the next stop, I saw entitled kid and entitled mother walking out of the train. They literally went to all of this effort for a total of a 14-minute ride. Let's be honest, guys, if this was you in your first class seat, would you even acknowledge them wanting to sit in your seat? Let me know in the comments down below. Because I don't sit in first class often, and if I'm enjoying my seat right there on the train, right by the window, I don't know if I would even entertain some kid complaining about it. Our next story is by JDay057, entitled Grandpa Causes All 3 Grandkids, including Newborn, to be sick so he could visit. I am still enraged about what this guy did. My baby cousin, who grew up with my children, lives next door to us with his wife and 3 small children, ages 4, 2, and 3 weeks. We are a very close family. He's only 20 years old, but is a wonderful, responsible young man. Last weekend, his wife's father asked to have the oldest grandchild over for a few days to visit. With the virus and everything, they were obviously a little wary of letting their son go somewhere without them where they couldn't keep him clean and safe. I should add that they had boundary issues with this grandfather in the past, and he always seems to think his wants and needs trump those of the babies or anyone else for that matter. Anyway, they had a long talk with him about whether anyone in the home was or had been ill or been in contact with anyone who was ill. He insisted they had all been home and safe and were still isolating. They went over the rules about not taking him out in public and wearing a mask if they absolutely have to go anywhere. He assured them that they would be fine. Cue their son coming home on Monday. He is his normal self but has a stuffy nose. Then a cough. 2 days later, he is lethargic, nauseous, coughing, and has a stuffy nose. They separate him from his siblings, but it's too late and they too are now sick. He called the grandfather to ask if anyone else in the house was sick and is told that yes, everyone in the house had been sick for over a week. He said he didn't tell them because he knew they wouldn't let him take the boy over and he was tired of not being able to see his grandson. He insisted it was just a normal flu and he would have caught it anyway at preschool, the virus is a hoax, etc. He flipped his lid on the guy, as did his wife, and he is, temporarily at least, banned from contacting them or seeing the kids due to his constant poor judgment. Regardless whether they have a flu or a virus, he knew darn well there was a newborn in the house, and because of him, that newborn is going to be tested for the virus. The whole family has to go. We are all waiting to hear the results and are staying in just in case, since we've only been in contact with them. We only heard about what happened this afternoon. I still can't believe the gall of this man to put his grandchildren at risk just so he could have a visit. Now, I don't know for certain, but I feel like there's some kind of legal grounds for a suing case, at least in the US. I could be wrong, but I would love to be corrected on that, because this is ridiculous. If it is the virus and it spreads to the newborn, yikes. In most cases, they should be fine, and I would hope they would be fine, but you don't want to have to do it if you don't have to, and it didn't have to happen here. Even the regular flu. Our next story is by Cool41D, The Tale of the Entitled Witch of the East. Now, my first job was as a pizza delivery boy for a Domino's, and I've had my fair share of Karens, but this one is probably my favorite one because not only did I get the last laugh, but it gave me a level of respect from a manager. Let's call him James, that I never thought I would have had. Our glorious story begins in a famous city in Australia, and I was working. Duh. Now, I have Asperger's syndrome and have a hard time looking at people I don't know in the eyes, and because of this, I accidentally created a habit where I tell new people, "Sorry for not looking directly at you, I have Asperger's syndrome." My boss James is an a-hole and doesn't take poop from anyone but is very understanding about my situation and is strict but fair to his staff and will always stand up for them. Now on with the story. As mentioned, I was a pizza delivery boy for Domino's for about 2 years, and I have met many Karens. Some asking for discounts, some saying the pizza was cold even though it's not, and some even asking why I, an 18-year-old, am working at Domino's and not working in a real job, but I digress. None of these Karens could compare to this witch. Not only was this witch worthy of a story to my future grandchildren, but it is probably the worst and best experience of my life so far. Anyway, so we received a delivery order for a large pepperoni pizza and 3 small Cokes. 5 minutes had passed and this woman called again to ask, "Why is my pizza taking so long?" Or, "Where is my pizza?" So after about 20 minutes, the pizza was finished. I got the drinks and hopped in my car and drove off to deliver. After about 10 minutes, I made it to the evil, slimy lair of our soon-to-be Karen. I knocked on the door, and out came this ogre that even Shrek wouldn't find attractive. She looked at me and I said, "Hello, sorry if I'm not looking directly at." She cut me off and said, "Freaking finally, I've been waiting for hours for this." I was taken aback as I'm not used to confrontation of this manner. I started breathing heavily but quickly pulled out my fidget spinner to calm down. Yes, I used the fidget spinner even after they went out of style, don't judge me please. She then said, Hello, are you listening to me?" trying to make eye contact with me. I eventually composed myself and said, "I'm sorry, I have Asperger's syndrome and I don't feel comfortable with directly looking at people." She scoffed and said, "Why the freak are you letting R words work? Maybe because they feel guilty. This is disgraceful. Maybe if your parents didn't vaccinate you, you wouldn't be a pathetic R word who doesn't know how to do things." Now I was pissed. Not only was she insulting me, but she was insulting people like me. The people that either can't defend themselves or are too socially awkward to do anything. I screamed, "I have Asperger's because I was born with it, not because of a freaking vaccine. Who the freak do you think you are, a doctor? You're just a big blueberry whale of a woman. If anything, you're pathetic." I was visibly fuming with rage and she said, "How dare you speak to me like that? I'm going to call your manager and get you fired." Now, what this Karen didn't know was that a few months ago before this moment, I was accused of something I didn't do. I might post the story if you like, but this in turn made it so that I was vowed to always record my interactions with people when it came to big social things. Obviously not always, but when I felt it was necessary. And this was one such moment. I had recorded everything. Oh, but our story continues. Because not only did I do something that surprised even me, but made me feel pretty good about myself. I opened her pizza and gave it to her and said, "Enjoy your food, miss." She responded, "Don't try and sweet talk me, boy, you're screwed, absolutely screwed." My response, I pulled out all 3 of her small Cokes and dropped them on the ground saying, "Oops, sorry, my bad," and walked away. She screamed something about me being an R-word and a terrible employee. Once I got into my car, I began to cry. I was crying more than I ever had, but I managed to compose myself and get back to work. My manager called and simply said, "Give me the recording." I gave it to him and cried again. One of my coworkers came in and hugged me to calm me down. He heard the recording and said, "I thought something like this happened. It's okay, you're not in trouble. Obviously, I do not condone the language you used, but I understand. Don't worry, you're not in trouble." My coworker told me I should be proud of myself for sticking up to people like that. Word got around fast there. I left about 3 months later to pursue a DJ career, and I have never looked back, but I always enjoyed working there, and the rest, as they say, is history. How is somebody going to blatantly share that they have a disability with you, and you take that information and just slap them right across the face with it? Absolutely disrespectful, and I'd like to see this lady blacklisted from all the stores in her region. This next story is by XX Redditor 080704XX. Entitled Mother Cleans Garage, Then Throwaways Documents in My Box Without Asking Me First. Entitled Mother, my mom, is cleaning the garage and grabs a document bin that I own, and previously I thought that she just moved some stuff at the time. I hear shouting coming from the garage about something. Thought it was a tiny bit weird, but then realized she is like this a lot of the time, so it was probably nothing. So before Entitled Mother cleaned, I asked her about the documents, where they were before, and Entitled Mother claims she has no idea where they are. Fast forward to today. I go to look for my documents in the garage that have been moved to find that they are nowhere in said garage. So I am panicking. So today, I inquire about my documents after searching the garage and get a totally different response. Entitled Mother says that she trashed my documents I had inside of that box, claiming that the mice had gotten to them. I immediately realized I needed to investigate this further to get to the bottom of it and find the truth about what happened with my documents and Entitled Mother. It is then that I go back to the garage to do some digging to verify things, and I find the folder that has the info about Entitled Mother's riding lawnmower in it, including service receipts, which was in good shape, for being in a high moisture garage with no signs of chewing on it at all from any mice. It was open and on a dry workbench. So I bring it back to show Entitled Mother to show her that there wasn't mice in the garage. Entitled Mother pretended not to hear me with what I said about the mice, and her response was, "Oh, my lawnmower manual." I am in the process of moving out to a new place at the moment and have since barred anyone from touching my stuff or helping me move my stuff into a vehicle because of what Entitled Mother did to my documents, and am quite wary of her being around my things because if she doesn't throw more of my stuff away, she could damage my things. I did some thinking and have decided to talk to my sister tomorrow after this because Entitled Mother doesn't seem to understand boundaries, and I am still very livid after what happened hours ago. My theory for why she shouted last month is that she may have found what the documents were, printed off real estate listings, and threw them away thinking that would stop me from leaving. Yeah, if she thought throwing away documents would keep you there longer, it has absolutely assuredly the opposite effect. My advice for OP is get out of there quick and get out of there fast. And our final story of the day is by My Name's Underhill. I will decide what the school will do for my boy. I taught music at a primary school, and this happened a few years ago to a colleague of mine. Many school music programs have a contract that parents sign before enrolling their children in individual/group music lessons. You know, like flute or piano, etc., and not classroom music lessons. These contracts clearly state the terms that parents are agreeing to by signing and enrolling their children in the program. A common term is that parents acknowledge that they are committing to a full year of lessons. An example, no take backsies, and that there are only certain conditions where being absent is acceptable. An example, being sick and absent from school equals acceptable. Forgetting to turn up is unacceptable. This, among other things, deters parents who constantly change their minds or only pay for some lessons and not all of them, and kids who always forget to show up for lessons and cause problems in the groups. Believe me, the terms of these contracts had stories behind them that led to them being added to the list. Anyway, so the school does group lessons, with kids who are at the same level of experience and skill are taught together. One kid, we'll call him Daniel, and a group of maybe 5 of his peers fractured his collarbone about halfway through the school year and couldn't play his instrument for several weeks, which is understandable. Entitled Mother contacted the tutor, let's call them Alex, to say that he wouldn't be coming to lessons since he couldn't play, so there wouldn't be any point. Alex asks if Entitled Mother could please continue sending Daniel anyway, since he would miss out on content, fall behind the rest of the group, and would struggle to catch up after so many weeks of absence. And he can still listen and follow along to the songs and participate even if he couldn't play. Alex also reminded Entitled Mother that, per the terms of the contract and the school policy on the lessons, she would still be charged for the lessons that were missed since he was still at school and was able to sit in on the lessons. Well, this did not bode well with Entitled Mother. She started sending angry emails to Alex, refusing to pay for lessons when Daniel clearly couldn't attend, even though he was at school every day and could very easily just sit in on the lessons, and then demanded that Alex remove him from lessons altogether. Once again, Alex reminded Entitled Mother that, per the policy and contract that she signed at the start of the year, they had committed to a full year of lessons, and even if the Entitled Mother refused to send him to lessons, she would still be charged the full year's worth of lessons. Entitled Mother blew up at Alex, threatening to contact the principal of the school, even though it was school policy, etc., and saying that, "I'm his mother and I will decide what the school will do for my boy. He doesn't even like learning that instrument anyway. Music lessons are expensive and pointless." And on it went. After more back and forth, with Alex reiterating school policy and the agreement that Entitled Mother made at the start of the year, and Entitled Mother yelling more of the same, Alex decided, screw it. Entitled Mother wants to remove her son from lessons? Fine, he's out. Alex contacted Entitled Mother and told her the good news and also warned that he would not be allowed to rejoin the group when he had recovered from his injury. Entitled Mother was suddenly very polite and civil again and accepted the news. Happily, of course. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Several weeks pass. Little Daniel's collarbone got better. Guess who immediately contacted Alex to demand that he be allowed back in the group for lessons? Entitled Mother, of course. Initially, Alex flat out refused. It was what Entitled Mother wanted after all. But again, after some classic Entitled Mother temper tantrums, and also Alex feeling sorry for Daniel, who was a decent kid, Daniel was allowed back into the group. He was, as Alex had warned Entitled Mother, very behind and struggled to catch up to the rest of his lesson group. But he was happy to be back and Alex was happy to have him there. I never did find out if anything happened after that, but it seems that Entitled Mother did have a bit of a reputation with the teachers for similar such antics. I understand OP really wanted to stick it out to the Entitled Mother, but I'm kinda glad that they let Daniel in back at the very end because it really wasn't something that Daniel had a great factor into. It was all kind of purported and ran by the mother, so it's good to see that the kid doesn't get punished in the end. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which one and why in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you haven't, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, so no matter what you did, thank you for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.